Hey everyone, George here, the Disney Family Man, coming to you with another exciting video. And once again, I have two dear good friends of mine, especially to the channel, or as I like to call us, the trio with the glasses. That, that we have Mr. OrangeGrove55. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on again.
As always, it's a pleasure. And Mr. VashSky, how are you today, sir?
I am doing very well actually. Happy to be here. I'm excited about today's topic.
Yeah, I thought, this would probably be the best topic for all three of us to kind of give our 2 cents, our opinions on, because this is something that's been kind of tracking for a while, and I would love to get an insight of what you guys think. And for all of you watching and listening out there, we're going to talk about, is Disney getting too expensive? And that's the main question nowadays, because fans like all of us that sometimes we have the blessing to say, hey, we can go multiple times to a Disney park. Well, there are families that can only maybe go once in a lifetime, and they have to have that picture perfect vacation. And is it getting to the point where it's getting too expensive for a typical middle class family? Because that was Walt's vision. He wanted a place where everyone can enjoy, and to be able to go where families, the adults and the children, could have fun together. And it seems like you can do that, but there's a price tag for it, And Vash, I want to actually come to you first. What is your take on all of it, as far as the history of like where Disney began, like with the price, and how it's to now?
Yeah. So I mean, it's such a fascinating story, and I couldn't really explain it just verbally. So I got some graphics put up for us here. The history of the parks and the pricing is kind of really interesting. There's been some articles written about it now, and how Disney World, the pricing has left the middle class behind and all that kind of stuff, and little doomsdayer stuff. But it's a little bit more subtle, nuanced than that, I should say. So going back to 55, when Disneyland opened, Walt, like you alluded to, he didn't want to price everybody out. Honestly, he was thinking about not having a price, ticket entry price at all, and that whatever you did during that day would kind of pay for itself. Eventually, it was just a lot more feasible. Okay, well, if we want to keep maybe the riffraff out at that time and keep our standards high, then we might want to do a ticket price at the gate. And when that debuted, it was about $1 back in 1955, as you see there. But again, and people might be looking at the Six Flags and go, oh, how was Six Flags so high, even just 6 years later? The reason for that was because that was not an all-inclusive price. Six Flags was all-inclusive. You buy your ticket at the front gate, you basically have free roam throughout the park. At Disneyland, every single thing cost on the other side of that gate. So there's been some, people have put together on how much that might be. With all the attractions that they had included and all that, you could be paying up to $8.70 a person going to the park back in 55. That was hugely expensive. To put that in perspective, I have some other items to cross-reference that between.
And that's when they were having like the e-ticket and the D-ticket stubs, where you actually pay for what you would like to go on during that day.
The ticket books weren't introduced until a couple months later. This was just like right at 55. Again, when the ticket books actually came out, one of the reasons was to add more value to reduce that price, because it got pretty insane. The ticket books provided kind of a better value as you bought in bundles rather than each individual ticket separately. But yeah, I mean, the ticket system did exist at that time. Just to put that in perspective, to go to a playoff game back, in 1958, that's $2 for, the bleachers and $10 for a premium seat at that time. A Broadway show was about $8.05, which interestingly enough, is the closest representation of how much Disneyland at that upper tier actually costs. And there's a reason for that. Disney actually did a survey not too long ago of, this is Disneyland with all of its, activities and what you can do in a single day, nighttime entertainment, rides, so forth. And here's a Broadway show. And the Broadway show price was this much. Do you feel that a price at Disney's commensurate with that? And everybody agreed. That's why those prices actually line up so closely even then. And they've kept that tradition ever since.
Wow.
So you go forward here. Let's see. There we go. And you see this price shift over time. And it's just skyrocketed, as we all know, but it actually has skyrocketed in very specific points in its history. Originally back in the 1970s, when this kind of price increase took off, you had the oil crisis, obviously, and then you had, getting capital for Epcot. At that time, you can see the revenue share between these two entities, between the divisions within the Disney parks. Back in the day, it was like 50%, over 60% of their revenue was just from the parks. So the only way to increase that revenue coming in was through price increases. You have the Greenmail scandal, which, to fend off Saul Steinberg, you have to keep that that stock price high. The only way to do that was through price increases, although Card Walker was not a fan of that. Then when Michael Eisner comes in, it's like, whoa, this is way undervalued. We got to shoot this way, way up. Part of that was they were investing more in the parks. Then Paul Pressler comes in. That shoots at the price. Bob Iger comes in. He comes in with this kind of grand vision. Hey, look, we can relaunch the parks. We can invest more. But to do that, we have to take more in. And that's where you see these price increases. Every single time they need cash, that's where they go to. And then...
sorry, Vash, not to interrupt, but real quick, I just want to interject real quick on this. This kind of stuff is a real balancing act with these price increases, because, like, on one hand, when you have a premium product, which a lot of people consider Disney to be a premium product, and Disney considered itself to be a premium product, you want to have a price point that's going to reflect a premium product. Like, for example, you can get beef at McDonald's and at Ruth Chris Steakhouse. They both come from cows. It's still essentially the same thing. They're both beef or whatever steak, but the quality and the pricing is way, way different. At McDonald's, it's, a few dollars, and at Ruth Chris is going to cost you quite a bit more. So there's that perception of quality and that premium product when you charge more for that. So I can see why Disney, aside from obviously making more money, would want to keep that, because it is an optics thing to some degree. You want to maintain that level of, like, we're the premium experience, but it's a balancing act in the sense where, like, when you start to take things away like they're doing now with the COVID stuff, and you're still charging the Ruth Chris Steakhouse prices, but the steak is a quarter the size, that's when you have a problem. It's definitely a balancing act that they really have to figure out.
Yeah, and that was perfect, Orange Grove. I was just going to get to that, but go ahead, George.
Yeah, because I was just going to say, not of Disney's fault. As time goes on, technology becomes bigger and better. The parks are starting to expand, and in order to make these new additions for us to experience, it costs money. So on a business standpoint, a company standpoint, I can understand, in order for them to make revenue and get their money back, they have to make some subtle, changes of pricing. But to what Orange Grove was saying, coming time now with the pandemic and everything and the shutdown, when you're not getting what you're paying for, and there's so much of budget cuts and quality of things that aren't available to guests right now, should you be paying that full premium price as if everything was open, which obviously it's not.
Yeah, it gets really, really, difficult, because I have fought for strongly for the last 6 months or so. It's like the value. Where's the value? If you're cutting offerings attached to that price, then you're essentially raising the price without actually doing it, because you're now reducing the valuation of what you're paying for. And it really is interesting going into this. It's just like, yeah, we from a guest standpoint, we see it. From their standpoint, they're losing billions of dollars, and that gets us to this last slide here. They're taking out billions of dollars just to cover debt. They've lost $2.6 billion just from the theme park's operating income and the latest quarter. In terms of this is like February. And then over the course of Disneyland shutdown, it was shut down for 412 days. They lost $4.3 billion. That's $23 million a day. That money's got to come from somewhere. Unfortunately, it's coming from us.
Right. And you also have to worry about, and I'm going to bring this up because we got some news on it the other day, but that Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser, which looks dope. I mean, it looks incredible. And I love the concept of it being like almost like a cruise ship more than a hotel. Everything is on point with that. But when it comes to stuff like that, right? Like a lot of these insiders and like these tourist blogs are saying that, for the pricing, and Disney, to be fair, hasn't officially announced any pricing for that Star Wars experience. But a lot of these blogs are saying, like, basically take what you pay for the cruise lines and double it. So you're looking at like $3,000 a head. You get to a point when you're that expensive, like let's say for Walt Disney World, for example, when you already have 4 parks, when you're already shoveling out thousands of dollars for that vacation for all those parks and the hotel. And then Disney's asking you, hey, on top of that, pay $3,000 per head for the Star Wars thing for 2 or 3 more days. And you get to the point where it's like, people only have a finite amount of money and time to be on vacation. And there comes a point when you start to cannibalize your own product. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and I'm glad you actually brought that up, because I was reading some of the description of what's entailed with this Star Wars Star Cruiser. And just as you said, I think it's more so going to be the price of pretty much what a 2-night is on a actual cruise ship, because what it's saying is your dining is included, your activities are included, everything once you step foot on board, so to speak, that, you're paying for a one premium price for this package to stay at this hotel. Now, with my concern is, again, at the time when this Star Cruiser opens, where is Disney going to be as far as having things open? Because if they're going to be paying a price just like when the cruise line industry reopens, more so to get their money back, it's going to be very expensive. So they're mentioning like all these activities and technological standpoints of what the Star Cruiser is going to have. But at the end of the day, it's really cool on paper. But at the end of the day, just like with Galaxy's Edge, are we really going to get what the concept art is showing? And is the price going to reflect on that?
I was just having this conversation with Orange Grove the other day. It's just like, we've been through this before. And are they truly going to deliver? Now, in my opinion, I think they did save a lot of stuff that may have been part of Star Wars Galaxy's Edge for this more premium price point. So I do think that will be available. Now, you do make a good point about COVID restrictions and so forth. In my opinion, I don't think they're going to open this thing up until they can at its 100%, the full balls to the walls essentially experience. They're not going to short it because it's a new product. This is a new venture for them. Bob Chapek, this is one of his darlings, actually. You only have one chance to make a first impression, as we've seen with Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, in relation to when it opened versus when it opened with Rise and so forth, and the perception there.
And I would hope it would be balls to the wall, because there's essentially no gravity in space.
Wow.
Oh boy.
So literally, huh, George? Literally balls to the wall.
Yeah, literally.
Oh boy. So, well, but I mean, to wrap up my point here, I don't think it's going to open until it's actually ready. But at the same time, it's like, this is really expensive. It's got to be really, really good, because I mean, I've seen all across social media. When I interact with people, 9 times out of 10, great, happy to see it, sounds exciting. I will never get to experience it because it is that high.
Right. Exactly. And it's tied in with an already expensive vacation at Walt Disney World. So it's like a lot of families are going to have to make that decision. Do I do all 4 parks, or do I just do the 2 that I really, really love and the Star Wars hotel? You know, at that point, you start to pick away at some stuff that maybe you don't necessarily need. I don't know. It's balancing it.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. For people who do pay for the Star Cruiser, don't they get some sort of special access into Galaxy's Edge during their time on their stay on the Star Cruiser? Or do you already have to have a park admission in order to do that?
That's a good question. I actually don't know. You know that, Vash? Do you know if it's included with the Hollywood Studios?
From what I understand, it is all inclusive. Like,
cool.
You get everything, and you get guaranteed access to Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. So that, that is part of the purchase price. From what I understand, I don't think they're going to tack on like, oh, well, sorry, you can't go to the world that this cruiser is supposed to be going to because you didn't pay the ticket price back when you booked this whole thing. I don't think they're going to do that. I think it is going to be an experience where you go to the planet of Batuu, and as part of that, you get to visit it.
Cool.
A lot of the playmaking stuff too, it takes place on Batuu as well. So, there you go.
Cool. And that's good for Hollywood Studios. That'll probably bolster their attendance at least,
Mm-hmm.
To some degree, I think.
Absolutely. But getting back to the price of the parks right now, I mean, and just to finish up this slide here, we're seeing rapid increases of prices, it's just all over the place right now. And it's some things are more subtle, some things are more aggressive, but you see in the micro and you see in the macro. In the micro here, I have the Monte Cristo sandwich available at Cafe Orleans. Famous sandwich, well known, whatever. They cut the portions down by half and kept the price the same.
Wow.
And they did this because they kept the Touch of Disney version of the Monte Cristo sandwich, which is the exact same thing, exact portion size and everything else, at $10.99, because they understood that was, that's where the price was. That's where the price disparity was. But they didn't stop Cafe Orleans from cutting half the portions down. It's this kind of stuff happening everywhere. On the macro, I mean, I heard DVC members are getting killed right now. They're getting killed when it comes to, points distribution, borrowing points from next year, and so forth. I mean, they're making money any way they can.
Wow. And part of it is part of this falls kind of on the consumer. When fans are on the Disneyland website and they're every day for Touch of Disney is sold out. And they're just like, at any cost, I'm gonna do Disney. I'm gonna whatever it costs. You're rewarding Disney for things like this with this Monte Cristo thing where they're cutting the portions and charging the same price. You're rewarding them for that. I think the only way this stuff is going to change is when the consumer finally says, "Hey, I've had enough. I'm not going to pay, $9 for a can of Coke." But
then it's also to the same point as Vash said with the DVC members, that they're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place because they actually signed contracts and there was a lot of, legalities behind it. And, unfortunately, they just can't get out of it with a click of a finger. It's like they have to go through all this. Because I actually have a friend who's a DVC member, and they said right now it does not, and I can't believe I'm actually saying this because we're talking about, and I'm not discouraging people from becoming DVC members. Just right now, it is not worth the price to become a DVC member because the days, the points, everything right now, they are not getting what they essentially paid into prior to the shutdown and COVID, because what they thought was, okay, we're getting a Disney timeshare that we'll have for 50 some years, 40 some years, depending on which timeshare you bought into. But it's like not expecting this to happen. It's like, what do you do then? Because you're losing out on money that you even put in ahead of time.
Yeah. I have heard some really bad stuff. Like, previously, as a DVC member, you could borrow from the next year's points. Now you can only borrow from a small portion of those. Your points still expire at the end of the year, and so you're putting, especially in 2020, you were really put in bad situations where it's like, well, travel's shut down. I can't get plane flights. I can't, travel to these places, and my points are going to go away. And it's overbooking rooms and so forth. I mean, it's just it's really a mess. They're doing some stuff there, which just is eyebrow raising. Which is just like, look, listen, I understand you're hurting. I understand you gotta squeeze that stone and get that much more blood out of it. But Jesus, I mean, these are some things that, look, Card Walker back in the 1970s was very much against raising the prices of tickets. He was very much, hey, look. We don't want the perception that we're stiffing our guests. Essentially, we want to be value oriented. We want to be put out there. Hey, you spend a little bit more, or maybe sometimes less, considering inflation and all that kind of stuff, but you get a lot out of it. And he really fought back against this kind of price hiking, even when they were, at really bad times. Right now, that's just antithetical to what they're doing right now, and it's very frustrating. It's very concerning.
Yeah, and it is a balancing act too, in the sense of its relationship with, at least here in Anaheim. I'm not familiar with the situation in Florida, but with Anaheim, we definitely have a too much demand problem. The parks are packed, at least pre-COVID. The parks were wall to wall. The crowding was insane. It was really, really bad. So it's like you have to maintain a price point to some degree that's going to kind of have some sort of barrier to entry, so you don't have literally everyone trying to get in, creating even a worse problem. But at the same time, you want to price it fair enough where your average family can kind of do it, so it's a tough balancing act. I would honestly suggest to Disney, though, with this new annual pass program they're going to roll out by the end of the year, don't do monthly payments. That was the worst decision that Disney made in terms of the crowding, was those monthly payments. If you have to put up front $1,200 for a pass, a lot less people are going to do it. And I think they should go that route. Just eliminate monthly payments completely.
And that's actually what I was just going to say.
That happens, you pay the price, but
you pay the price, and they paid the price. Go ahead, George. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Perfect. Nice segue. Because that's actually what I was just going to bring up to you, especially in California with the annual pass situation. Whenever that new program starts, they're either going to raise the price on this annual pass, not knowing what it's going to be when it comes back, and then they also have the situation, as you said, with crowd control. So if they're only going to have a certain amount of people they want in the parks at a time, they can't have the typical annual pass to say, okay, well, you have this pass, you can come and go as you please. So it's like, so are you paying for, so essentially, what is the extra that you're really paying for? Because if you can't get in where and when you want to, based on the amount of people that's already in the parks, then that to me was essentially the whole point of even having an annual pass. And I believe I actually think it was Chapek and Diamaro that mentioned the fact that the theme park pass system is going to stick around for a little bit longer. And I think when they say a little bit longer, they mean it's until everything gets flushed out.
Yeah, well, that's the thing too with like when you have a reservation system in place, that's blackouts. Those are blackout days, because you can't have I was paying for the Signature Plus pass that had no blackout dates. But if they offer a similar product, Signature Plus, but you have to make reservations, well, then that's a blackout program, because there's always that possibility that you're going to go in for that reservation and it's going to be full. So that's a blackout day then, basically, So I think the days of just like you can go whenever you want and there's no blackout dates. I think those days are over. I think they'll all have that reservation thing attached to it.
It would seem like it, or if they are going to have, no reservations or whatever, it's going to be a very premium product at a very high price.
Yeah.
Here's the problem. Okay, this is a series of bad decisions that have led us to this point. Really, when it comes to the pricing of Disneyland specifically, what happened was after the 50th was just gangbusters. People really started to come in quite heavily, and in 2008, 3 years after, they introduced the payment plans for annual pass holders, and that's what exploded the situation to just ungodly levels. And really, as going through that, they've tried to kind of blunt force this situation, but really not taking quite truly into account that they were doing it within the context of annual payments. Their idea was, okay, we can just price them out. We can price out annual passes so that less of them come to the parks on an annual basis. So they're less inclined to actually buy annual passes to be there. You get it. Well, the problem is they, even when you have really aggressive increases, spread out over 12 months, those are a couple less coffees that you get at Starbucks, really.
Right, exactly.
It wasn't painful enough to keep people back, but it inflated the price to such an extent that now, and they did this commensurate with with regular tickets too. Now you have a really inflated price, and the whole situation has been turned over on its face, and it's just they try to do this thing to take into account and to account for a million annual pass holder population, and to try to control them. And this was a really bad way to go about that. And now that program is taken offline, and who knows what the price will be when it comes back, but it's just overinflated.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm trying to still get a grip on Disneyland's ticket prices. I'm still, because I'm not too familiar, right now of purchasing tickets. But Walt Disney World, it's $109 a day, just for one day at, Walt Disney World. And it spans to the notion of, like, as you go, if you add on an extra day, it knocks off a few dollars. So it essentially kind of where they say, oh, the more, the tagline, the more you play, the less you pay per day, sort of speak. So I don't know what's the situation as far as like with the Disneyland tickets goes, like as far as like even the single day or the park hopper.
From what I understand, the Disneyland tickets are like, aren't like park hoppers for Disneyland around 200 now, Vash, something like that? Yeah.
So the way they work is you have single day tickets, and you have multi-day tickets, and then you have the park hopper options that you can add to each one. And within the single day tickets, there's 5 tiers that range from $100 all the way to $150. And depending on which day you actually pick for that single day ticket, that will put you in different tier categories. And then when you add multi-days, then you do hit the same thing that you spoke about, George. You do get a reduction in the price of each day as you add on more days. And then for the pass holder, it's the park hopper option for each of these. I think it's like $70 to add it on.
Right.
Any of these tickets. I mean, it's like $200 if you want to go to both parks, average.
So what was the ticket price prior to the shutdown for Disneyland? Do you remember?
Well, these are actually, from what I understand, they didn't raise prices, right, Vax? These are the 2019.
So these are the actual
2019 prices.
Yeah, these are 2019.
But
unadjusted.
But minus also the Max Pass option as well.
Yeah, Max Pass was always a thing you can tag on after the fact. You didn't have to buy it at the time. You could always just, you could just literally walk up to the parks and
that's where Disneyland did it right than Walt Disney World, because it's the option of paying a little bit more to have that Fast Pass option, where with Walt Disney World, it was included with the Fast Pass Plus option when you buy your tickets. But being that Fast Pass isn't open right now, you're still paying that amount for the same price ticket.
Wow. Well, I would bet you that Disney parks, and this is just my conjecture, my opinion, I think they're going to do away with the free Fast Pass system altogether eventually, and everyone's going to have to pay into some sort of Fast Pass premium add-on. I just can't see them giving that away for free forever. I don't know.
I really hope that Walt Disney World adopts the Max Pass as how Disneyland has it, because comparative experiencing both, Max Pass was so much more easier to deal with at Disneyland than to try for the Fast Pass Plus at Walt Disney World.
You know, you shouldn't have to launch a genie type system to try and make a day that much easier to plan for and account for and all this. I guess, you know, and each coast is both different. I think Disneyland and Anaheim in the West is more spontaneous with how they frequent the parks versus, you know, you really do have a lot of once in a lifetime vacationers at Walt Disney World, and they try to cater to those markets. But I think you're right, George. I think the best way to go about it would probably be a Max Pass system where you have fast passes that were only available on the day you actually go at the time you actually go to them. But yeah, these resorts are so different, and the operations are completely different as well.
Yeah, but I do see that Walt Disney World, at least for right now, maybe because of the COVID restrictions, I do see that Walt Disney World model of less spontaneity, you know, where it's more planning, encroaching on the Disneyland resort process more and more. I don't know if that's going to stick around when everything goes back to normal, but I do see that.
We see it with restaurants right now.
Yeah,
very, very, very much so, because there's so many restaurants that are down right now. You got to book those things up as soon as they come live. Essentially,
yeah, I actually and I remember talking to you guys. It was the day that we recorded something for Orange Grove's channel, and that morning I got to get up at 6 a.m. to get the reservations that I wanted to really try to get, because it's not one of those things where you could just walk up to the kiosk and say, "Hey, do you have an open reservation?" I mean, these things get booked months in advance, and it was crazy. And I actually have a video on my channel of the list of reservations that I made. So definitely, everyone watching, definitely check that out. That, you know, in order to get those most popular restaurants, you know, you have to get up at 5:30 in the morning and be ready on your phone, because everyone and their grandmother is waiting for those same reservations.
See, and maybe I'm old school. I like just showing up. I don't know. That's just me. I like just going to the parks. Hey, here I am. I'll even wake up early. I'll wake up early, drive to the parks. But I just like that first come, first serve. If we want to eat here, we walk up and just put our name in. All this new stuff with the apps and everything. I'm just like, maybe I'm just old. I don't know.
No. You can see this. You know, Disney's done a lot of data on this, and the West Coast clientele are far more casual than the East Coast clientele. I mean, it's in there, and I think that's what we're experiencing now. I'm with Orange Grove though. I like to be far more spontaneous in my Disneyland adventures.
Yeah, definitely.
I wish that I could be. It's like it doesn't give us the choice, because it's like, if you don't have a reservation, 9 out of 10, you're pretty much not going to sit anywhere to eat. And then with the Magic Mobile, you know, that you can't even go to a quick service and say, "Oh, I'm feeling this, you know, this turkey club sandwich with this, like right at this moment." And you have to order ahead of time. So it's like you have to already know what you want, even for a quick service.
Oh my God.
To say, okay, well, at this time, because it could be almost 2 hours before you pick up your quick service meal. So it's like, you better know what you want, because if you don't, you're going to be waiting even a longer period of time before getting your food. So it's just like, and if Disney wants to save money, I strongly suggest don't even put the money into the Genie app. I mean, that was just a waste of money.
Well, no, it's I mean, this kind of thing that you're talking about right now with Walt Disney World and dining and stuff, that's been going on for the last, 5-10 years. It was a real shock to the system for us Disneylanders to have to experience the same thing. I know on May the 4th, people were trying to get Ronto wraps at Ronto Roasters. We're talking 2, 3, 4 hours just to get a Ronto wrap.
Mm-hmm.
That's how backed up they are. That's how the staffing issues are. That's how, the lack of dining and so forth. That's what happens to these parks. When you don't have those options available and people are there and you want to go mobile order, which their mobile ordering system is not the best and complicates matters even further, that's what you get. And it's a horrible experience, especially for the price you're paying at Disneyland right now.
And with quick services, that when I was down there, to do the Magic order, Magic Mobile order and everything, they were trying to keep people socially distanced. But to me, that creates more of a cluster, because you wouldn't believe the people standing there trying to scan their phones into the app that they have, like the barcode sign on the front of like a poster board outside of the restaurant. You have people trying to scan that, looking at the menu, waiting for their order to be called, because and especially in Frontierland at Walt Disney World, because it literally bottlenecks between when you're coming up from Adventureland and when you're coming across where the Rivers of America is by Country Bear Jamboree. And that's like for the quick services there. People are just huddled trying to get their order, because you're not going to go all the way to Tomorrowland and then when your order's ready, have to walk all the way back to Frontierland. I mean, that's just ludicrous.
And that's what we're experiencing right now at Disneyland. I mean, I don't know if you've kept up with it, Orange Grove, but it's bad, man. I mean, honestly, the recommendation right now on MiceChat is when you walk into the park, make your mobile orders as you're walking in for the entire day. That's how ridiculous it is. And again, when you're, we talk about premium product and we talk about premium pricing. That's not a premium experience. That's just how it is.
It's not. I like to walk around the park, and when I walk by the corn dog thing on Main Street, hey, I feel like a corn dog. Cool. Let's wait in line and get a corn dog. Right. That's my mentality when I'm at the parks. I don't want to sit here and have to plan for it like it's like a rocket to like a moon landing. It's ridiculous. I mean,
it's literally you sit there. Okay, it's like okay, at 2:00 I'll have a corn dog and a soda. Okay, and then at 5 p.m. I'll go and sit down and have dinner here. Okay, and then at 6:00 I'll go in and take a pee, and then after that I'll come in. It's like that's what's going to be the next thing. That's literally
reservations for the restroom.
Reservations for the restroom.
Reservations for the restrooms. No, look, you shouldn't be going through this, and I'm interested too. I'm really interested and curious if this is really affecting sales to the extent that I think it is, because I've heard from a lot of people, just quit, give up and just go along. Efficiency or inefficiency in this case, that will affect sales dramatically. And so, hey, look, Disney, if you're hard up for money, how about you streamline these processes so we don't have to go through this?
Right, exactly.
I mean, if they want to make it a little bit more themed, they could always make the urinals that after you hit a bullseye and the racing horse hits a certain way, you don't have to pay.
Well, that's great for Pixar Pier, the bullseye, the Toy Story bullseye. Oh man, too much.
Yeah, we all love the Disney company. We all love the going to the Disney parks and so forth. And listen, we're trying to save you, Disney. We're trying to save you from yourself. And I understand. Look, you have cast members. They have some staffing issues right now, especially Disneyland Railroad can't open past 2:30. That's another whole another story, which that's another video that I'm going to get into pretty shortly here. But you got to do what you got to do. Anyway, I know Orange Grove has a hard out, so George, take us away.
Alrighty. So before we leave, do you guys have any final thoughts that can sum up of where do you see the future going as far as with the prices for Disney? Do you think that eventually they'll level out in time? Do you think it'll get worse before it gets better? What are your thoughts?
I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. And I think it's going to be a lot more. It's interesting because when the opening of Disneyland was kind of like a lot of pay to play. You gave them $1 or 50 cents to ride the omnibus and another 50 cents to ride the horse-drawn carriage. And it was very much like that, and we're kind of reverting. We're kind of coming full circle now with that, where now it's like everything is becoming like a pay to play thing. I think we're going to start seeing more and more of that. I think we're going to start charging for little services here and there that were free before. And then, so in short, yes, I think it'll get worse before it gets better. Once the consumer decides and puts their foot down and says, I'm not doing this anymore, that's when Disney will start to put their foot off the gas and start reversing some of that. But until then, It's going to get worse for sure.
Those survey results are the highest they've ever been, though, even pre-COVID. They love it, guys. They love it. No,
Best ever.
Listen, best ever. I think to summate very quickly, I think prices obviously will go up. That's just kind of a fact of life, inflation, all that. But I do think they will kind of hold the brakes on just for a little bit while the recovery is actually taking place, especially when you have a diminished product as they have right now. I don't think they'll be increasing prices maybe for like 2 to 3 years as they recover and get back into it. But after that, who knows? All bets are off.
Yeah, because also you got to understand after that, Bob Iger is gone and we got Chapek, and he's fully in charge. After December, it's all Chapek. So we'll see how that turns out.
Oh, we'll see.
All righty. Well, I want to thank you guys for joining me today, and hopefully this will all get better, and the wind will blow off, and we'll start to see some decent prices for Disney, because we're all that gullible and vulnerable to say, hey, we just want to get back in the parks. And I think Disney knows that, especially with Disneyland. They just want people to come back, and people will pay the price for it. And I'm probably guilty. I'll probably be one to do so. But I want to thank you guys for joining me today. And everyone, thank you for watching. And as always, stay healthy, stay safe, stay Disney. Bye, everybody.